my name is Dastan, and I'm gonna talk about the AI tools that help in my professional and private life, and make my life easier as a developer. I'm a front-end developer based in Germany. So, what we're gonna talk about today? We will have a short overview of different AI tools in programming, with the focus on front-end development. And then we'll talk quickly about the other AI tools that are used in close to programming areas like design. We'll talk a bit about the benefits and disadvantages of the AI tools, including issues of legality, like copyright and privacy. And in the end, I'll give some advice on using the AI tools that I reflected upon and kind of collected in recent couple of years while working with those tools. Yeah, and we'll start definitely with the copilots. So probably you are already using some of the copilots in your IDEs, like Visual Studio Code. They have like a lot of interesting functionalities that basically make your work easier. I tried some of them, including GitHub Copilot, Blackbox AI, and it's quite fascinating, yeah, what we're already able to do with those copilots. So, but actually there are like lots of them right now in the market. Some of them are free. Some of them have a paid version, or both. Yeah. So like depending on the functionalities that you use, you can stay in the free version or pay extra for extra functionalities. And each copilot also differs on what they offer. So some are rather, I would say, basic, and the others have more functionalities in terms of like automatic testing, for instance, or inline chatting, or they have a better code generation, documentation. They have also different support of different in IDEs. Some work on Visual Studio Code, others work on the PHP Storm, and so on. And also, of course, they have also different models, behind them, and this also affects on the code generation and other things. So I created a comparison matrix on those copilots, basically, with the advantages, functionalities, prices, and so on, that helps basically in choosing the IDA, the copilot, because basically it depends, like if you're a front-end developer working with certain technological stack, then you would probably go for a certain copilot, and if you're a back-end developer, then you probably choose the others. Some of the copilots are very kind of powerful, and they cover a lot of IDEs and a lot of languages, technologies, like GitHub Copilot, for instance. Others are quite specific. What's very exciting is the IDE called Z, which allows for collaboration live. So several programmers can work on the same code. see what the others are basically doing, talk to each other, fix this and that in the code. So this is really cool, and it also has a built-in AI in IDE. So probably this is like the direction we're going to in future with the IDEs, so that they will allow more of collaboration, easier collaboration between the developers, especially for X programming or like pair programming or group programming. So, but all those IDEs, copilots, they have pretty the same core functionality. And and one of those is basically predict what's the next line is, like here, yeah. So whenever we start writing the function, yeah, the copilot tries to predict what comes next in the next lines, and if we like it, we can overtake it by clicking the tab button, or or if we don't like it, we can of course write our own things. The other powerful thing is the code generation. As you can see here, I just type in the comment section what I want to have. In this case, I ask to use a web service to determine whether the sentiment of text is positive or not. And the function then basically is generated for me. And and then I get something created by the copilot, and I can test it and look at it and see if it does make sense, take it over, and work on the other parts of the code. The third functionality that helps us is the chat dialogue. Yeah, so we can ask questions, and which is really good. Is that like those will be like a context-based question. So we have the code open on the right screen basically, and we ask questions that are within this context of the code, and we ask, in this case, please write unit tests for a particular function that we highlighted on the right screen. Yeah, which is much easier and better than copy pasting code snippets to ChatGPT, for instance. Yeah, it makes the whole work smoother and easier. There is also the functionality of an inline chat, and this is all based on the GitHub Copilot. Yeah. The examples are taken also from the GitHub documentation. That but the other copilots, they're basically kind of the same. They have the more or less the same functionality, and based on this, you would do the same, more or less the same things with the other copilots. Back to the inline chat. You basically here, I start the inline chat and ask the question. There is a function, sorting function above, and I just ask, what is this? So this copilots are really good to understand the code, and down below basically I get an answer. So it determines that it's an insertion code, sorting algorithm, and it provides some more information what this sort algorithm is. And then in the inline chat, I ask them to convert the insertion sorting algorithm into bubble sort, and it generates the code down below for me. You can start the inline chat by Control I in the Visual Studio Code. Otherwise, just using the normal menu things. What you can do with the Copilot is you can explain certain things, as we saw just right now. You can ask to fix certain code, especially if there are bugs in there and you're spending a lot of time to understand what's happening with the bug. Then you can ask the Copilot to generate documentation for you and generate automatic tests. Let's see how it works with the documentation. So we generated the bubble sort algorithm, which is in the function bubble sort down below, and we just by typing doc, we ask to create a documentation for a particular function or a class or a module or anything that shows what are the parameters and what are the return values. Then what's really good for me personally, because English is not my native language, and it takes time to think of the commit messages, for instance. I sometimes use it for creating a commit message and generating it for you, so the Copilot can generate it for you as well. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the issues in the terminal. So for instance, I want to list the name of files in my folder Express app. I typed in LSS and I got an error. I got a problem, and the Copilot already sees it and basically recommends to explain it and to see how can I basically solve the problem in my terminal. And then I use it, and it basically explains that there is no such command LSS, and probably I meant to use the command ls, and it provided even the alternative command directory there. So, and I can just basically take it over and insert it directly to the terminal and use it. That was about the Copilots, but there are many other tools that I used in my daily life for both work and private things. Of course, it's ChatGPT. You're all aware of the very powerful model behind it. It's you can ask questions. It can do a lot of powerful things in there. What I used is also Notion for structuring a lot of my notes, and some also generation of these certain tables, for instance, or things like that. In design and Figma, Figma is now AI, also supports in AI within it, in the for instance code generation, but also in FigJam. The AI helps you to again to structure your brainstorming notes, for instance, group them, things like that. So it's also quite powerful. in Zapier, yeah, instead of like googling how to integrate certain things, what kind of webhooks to use, you can basically use like normal text in Zapier, in the AI supported Zapier, and it's much easier for you to integrate certain things there. Numerous AI, I used it for like Excel based, or the tables on the drive, where Google Drive, where the problem is that like there are like lots of functions, and some of the functions can be complicated, right? And you need to research and think of how to bring together those like different functions, and numerous AI helps you. Basically, you just type in the sentences what you want to do, and it generates that function for you, which is really also quite cool. There are, of course, many other different AI tools. You can basically Google and see what is there. There are like charts and maps of different AI tools that were mapped for different purposes, and it's really quite helpful, for like, I don't know, video generation, images. There are tons of AI tools for marketing purposes, I don't know, business, sales, and so on. It makes sense to look at it and see if it helps in your daily life. Let's come to the benefits, advantages of the AI tools. The biggest one is the productivity. You're just basically faster in understanding the code, for instance, or also thanks to the code generation, you can be also faster and more productive. What is good is also the refactoring. You can, for instance, restructure some unclear code and get ideas on basically how to make your code better, apply best practices, optimize your code, and so on. It's good also for prototyping, quick things, we've talked already about this, that you can create automatic documentation with the AI tools, and testing. Unit tests, for instance, are really good for this. There are, however, some issues with the AI tools. The biggest ones are the copyright, licenses, privacy, and the liability. We all know that the copilots and other AI tools, they actually collect a lot of data. It is necessary also for their training. And basically that data what makes them such powerful tools. But that collection of data creates issues with the privacy, copyright, and liability. So the codes that are generated by copilots, let's say, some of those can be already copyright protected, and we could be also not aware of that. So and that can pose a lot of issues if like the code that was generated was already kind of used somewhere else, and even copyright protected. Then there are a lot of errors and vulnerabilities in the AI generated code. In fact, there were studies that showed that like more than the 50% of the code that was generated in the ChatGPT was invalid, or many other studies that were comparing different copilots or AI tools, and the amount of invalid code or code that was vulnerable with errors was just staggeringly huge. And the question here is, of course, who's responsible? Yeah, is it those AI tools? Is it the programmer who is then using that AI generated code, or is it the client who bears responsibility of the end responsibility? So there's a lot of like legal unclarity in here, and we should be quite careful when we're using the AI generated code. Yeah. And the biggest problem is, of course, also the security. Yeah. So there were cases when the AI generated code included non-existing third-party libraries, in this case the NPM libraries, and someone can use that vulnerability. They can just create their own library, knowing that the AI generates a code recommending that library, and put anything in there. Yeah, so it can have very dramatic negative consequences for your code, and eventually for whatever you're building it for. So here are some important pieces of advice that I tried to collect within last couple of years of working with those tools. The first thing is to read the policies. Especially if you're working for clients as a freelancer, you need to provide that information to your end clients, to say what are the risks, what kind of data is collected with the AI tools that you are using in your life for their project. So that's why, it's important to get information, especially if you're providing services to other companies, or also if you're working within your company, you need to know what the policies are. Then it's important to change privacy settings in AI tools. ChatGPT, for instance, last year they introduced these basically it's not enough, of course, but it's still something. They introduced this chat history and training kind of swipe button where you can turn it off, so that the ChatGPT does not use the data that you enter for further trainings. It's probably advisable to turn it off. The same with the GitHub Copilot. You can turn off this checkbox where you allow GitHub to use the code snippets for product improvements, which is basically for their training models. Again, this is not enough. It's just one thing, and it's we should also put some pressure on how, like, we need more information on this, because our clients and our workspaces also need that information, and with the data, what's happening with our data. There are already some local or on-device AI tools that are not connected then to internet, which you need to prefer if there is such a possibility in your company, for instance. or there are also like network based, so like there are AI tools that are available only within your company's network, for instance. And yeah, this is like a very good solution for many companies to have that balance between the privacy and opportunities that the AI tools provide. If you use the AI generated code, please comment it as such. Just write in the comment that, yeah, this function was generated by ChatGPT or by the Copilot, this and that, and so that the other programmers know and can help you to find vulnerabilities in that AI generated code. And if there are like any copyright issues, yeah, that can arise, and that's also quite important. Then verify and validate information that was generated by the AI tool. Very important, because as I said, a lot of code that is generated is actually prone to errors, so you need to really be careful with that code. Then do not use, of course, AI tools for sensitive data, any data that of your, for instance, clients or anything you don't want to be somewhere in the internet. Use concrete and simple inputs in AI chats, because the better your input is, the better is the code that will be generated. Yeah. So if you ask, just create a certain algorithm, the AI will do it, but probably it will not do in the certain coding standard that you want to have. Yeah, or like in certain Angular version, for instance, or there will be no error handling. So in the next input, you need to include those things so that the your prompt is as concrete as possible, and it provides then the better results in the end. It's important also to encapsulate the code so that it's easier, for the AI tool also to work with your input. Whenever the AI recommends third-party dependencies, like let's say NPM libraries, please check that they actually exist, that they have like a large community, that there are recent changes happening, that they're actually valid and that you can trust. Also very important, if you're a freelancer, please sign agreements with customers regarding the use of AI tools. Some customers will prohibit to use any of your AI tools, and if they allow it, then you need to have like clear agreement on what you're allowed to do or not. The same with the employees. If there are internal guidelines or best practices within your company, please read them carefully. If they're not available, then push your employer to incorporate such guidelines and policies within your company, so that it brings a lot of clarity in your work in terms of using the AI tools. What also helps is just to map your own favorite AI tools and have it somewhere saved, so that you can come back and just use those, because like, as I said, there are tons of the tools, and it's very helpful to have that overview of those in one place. There is such a thing when you basically write your inputs prompts in the AI, try to iterate. So it's not just one kind of prompt or input, and probably you do that already, most of you, So but there are several, and you iterate basically quite a lot of times in order to get the best results. In the first iteration, you can first break the task into smaller and logical steps and ask something that the AI tool needs to do. And in the first step, you'll ask to do the first chunk of the work, the second, and so on. In the next iteration, you can also ask to use a certain code standard, certain like version of the technology that you want to use, and so on. Use the error handling, for instance. Then you can also, within the next iteration, you can basically ask to analyze the generated code and review it, or create documentation and things like that. So it's quite important to iterate several times in order to get the best results. However, I notice also in my work that like sometimes it's just easier to program from scratch everything for yourself, instead of just thinking of what to write in that prompt, in that input, instead of iterating and getting like really bad results all over again. So yeah, that's why I wrote that it's sometimes easier just to program yourself rather than do that prompt engineering. It's becoming like its own science. That's it. Thank you. Follow me on LinkedIn. Stay in touch. Ask any questions if you have any, and also support my side projects. We are queer mountaineers trying to ascend the highest mountains around the world for LGBTIQ visibility. We are going to Denali, the highest mountain of North America, this coming month, in 2 months. So yeah, please support our campaign. It's called pinksummits.org, or we are also on Instagram or other social media at Pink Summits. Thank you. Have a nice day.